welcome back to our second session on emotional intelligence. We saw an overview last time and we looked at the different areas. We had self-awareness, self-regulation, we got into empathy, motivation, and social skills. And so we're going to focus on the first of these, self-awareness. Part of having emotional intelligence is just simply knowing what your own emotions are before you even try to manage them or manage the emotions of another person. What are you feeling? Now, before we go any further, we realize that some of us are better at this than others. This is emotional intelligence, and just like other forms of intelligence, some people may have innately more intelligence in an area. This doesn't mean that you can't grow. It's just it's going to be a little more difficult for you, and you're going to have to work harder at it. And one of the things we need to work at right off the bat is answering the very simple question, what am I feeling? Sometimes we're not even sure what the choices are. We're going to take a look at that in just a moment. But I know I've been there and I know you've been there where there is something you're feeling and it's really hard to pinpoint what exactly is that emotion. And but we need to get better at this because once we become self-aware, then we know what to do with these emotions once we know where they're rooted and where they're coming from. And so again, this is simply asking the question, what am I feeling? It's recognizing and understanding your own emotions. And then we want to take it to the next level, not only understanding your own emotions, but the effect your emotions are having on others. And so sometimes you're feeling something, and sometimes we think it's all right here. It has nothing to do with anybody else. But the fact is the way that your face turns, the way that your body begins to express these things, it can have an effect on others. And so it's answering the question, what am I feeling and what effect is it having on those around me? There's a really interesting tool here that I'm going to show you. And this is one way, if you're having difficulty locating that emotion, like what are you feeling? Sometimes you can pull this out. It's by a psychologist named Plutchik, and it was called the Wheel of Emotion. And so we'll take a look at that. Now, at first sight, you say this is not an easy wheel to work through, but it really is. Each color does represent emotions, and you see at the very middle are some very intense root emotions, and we see as it goes out, it becomes less intense. So let's just begin at the middle with the yellow. Yellow is ecstasy. And really the median, if you will, the median emotion is joy. Joy in all of its intensity can lead to an ecstasy. Joy, a little less intense, is just serenity, almost being content with the situation. Take a look at the idea of fear here in green. Taken with great intensity, that fear has the emotion of terror. Taken with less, it's more of a caution or an apprehension. And we do see that these two emotions can work together. So if you take a look at acceptance, the idea of trust, and apprehension, the idea of fear, taken together, it's a feeling of submission. That there is a trust there, but there's also a fear, and so my response is often a submission. You look at the crossover between the same idea of trust and joy. The idea is feeling a sense of love. So take a look at the orange, for instance. Vigilance, you're on guard. It's more than just a caution. You're on guard. It's pretty intense. More mediated, it's an anticipation. And then finally more of an interest. But you take these together there's some joy and anticipation, serenity, contentment with interest. It creates a feeling of optimism. So sometimes you may feel something maybe out here. You say, I'm annoyed, for instance. See the red. I'm annoyed. It is good to know what the root of that is. It's really anger. And if you take it too far, it's going to end up in rage. So when you feel it out here, at least know what the root is. It's anger. And know what the extreme is. Rage. And we tend to use this term a lot. And say, well, I'm not angry. I'm just annoyed. Well, the fact is annoyance is just a less intense anger. So you are angry. It's not that you're not angry. You're annoyed at something. Something's bothering you. One of the more interesting ones to me is the purple. The idea of something that you find disgusting. And with a great intensity, it's loathing. You can't even stand to be around it. You can't even stand to think about it. It's loathing. But in its lesser sense, it's boredom. Boredom, we find out, is really not, it's not, I don't have anything to do. It's, I'm really discontent with what's in front of me. I don't like what I'm doing. And that's what we call boredom. So as you begin to feel something, go ahead and try to find it on this wheel and try to find the root. And that's a good place to begin to say, what am I feeling? And then what effect is it having on others? So there's just a little tool here. Now, as I mentioned, we can grow in the area of self-awareness. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you can begin growing in this particular area. The first thing you need to do is create some space and time. It's hard to be self-aware if there's so many distractions or you never take the time to do it. And we create space and time when we just connect with ourself daily. Just take a moment, take inventory. How am I feeling? Why am I feeling? What's happening today in my schedule? I feel blah. Why is that? I feel happy. Why is that? Just taking a little time to ask some of the questions. And you can avoid digital distractions. Very often, before you can even take stock of how you feel, you've picked up your phone or you've read something else, and you have a million other things now influencing how you feel before you even got to take inventory for that day. Carve out solitude. Be alone if you possibly can. Those of us who have a lot of kids in the home, it's hard to do that, but try to find just that little bit of time, carving out some of that time to be quiet and have solitude. And take that time not only to connect with yourself, but in your own faith, connecting with God, taking time to pray or meditate, and being able to speak that truth to your own soul and toward God, taking a little bit of time. Solitude is incredibly important in this way. I remember my first internship. I was a young man working he's to this very day still a mentor of mine. I remember the first day I walked in, he showed me my office, and it was simply a janitor's closet that had been outfitted with a desk and a small monitor. And it was my very first day on the job, and he says, I want you to go into your office there, shut the door, and I just want you to sit there for 1 hour and think. I thought this man was insane. He wants me to go into a small room and think for an hour. I remember being a college student, I sat down and I wasn't sure where to begin, but 15 minutes into it, I was thinking about all sorts of things. I was thinking about my summer. I was thinking, what do I want to see happen throughout the summer? I remember thinking, why am I sitting here? Why would he have me do this exercise? But thought led to thought, and pretty soon I began mapping out my entire day, mapping out my entire week. And so when I came out of that office and began talking to my mentor, he said, what did you think about? It was amazing all the great ideas I had. And he was there to teach me a lesson. He says, you need to take at least a half hour every day and do that same exact thing. It'll make your day far more productive. And I've tried to take that advice. I've added coffee to that and to drink my coffee and think quietly for the day. And it does prepare me for what's ahead. Practice mindfulness. It's paying attention, basically. Mindfulness is just having your mind active and paying attention to your inner state. When you begin feeling something, are you mindful to look for that? I'm feeling something and I want to know why this is happening. I at least know that it's happening. You're mindful in your walking. Take a purposeful walk to contemplate. Take a purposeful approach to eating. We can stress eat. We don't even know why we're eating something. I want to be mindful about what I'm eating or what I'm listening to or to whom I'm listening. Are we just trying to fill our ears with sound? Or are we being mindful about this? Mindfulness protects us against living in a reactionary way. If we walk into life with a far more mindful or intentional mindset, listening to what we're thinking, trying to figure out why what we're feeling, and trying to figure out why we're feeling that, and intentionally taking stock, we can avoid just simply having reactionary emotions, but practice mindfulness. Journal, hard thing to do, but a very productive thing to do, is writing down what you were feeling and maybe the situation that surrounded it. How did you deal with that feeling? A way to process your thoughts. Whether you want to do that in writing or in recording, it's a great thing to just take stock, again, not just of yourself, but remembering, I felt this in this situation. What was that emotion and how did it affect others? Practice listening. Sometimes we can be so quick to react. Just slow down. Pay attention to the speaker. Observe their own emotions. What are they really, based on what you see, what are they really trying to communicate through their emotions and their body language? And most importantly, don't judge them before they're even done getting the thought out. Evaluate. And that way you can avoid coming to some arriving at very intense emotions before you need to. Sometimes we hear half of what a person is saying. Our emotions are already on the rise, and sometimes we don't hear the rest of what they have to say. Or we have reacted in an emotional way, and then when we do hear what they have to say, trying to walk that back, it's very hard to eat crow, and it's probably best if you hold off when you feel those emotions. Make sure that you say, what am I really reacting to, before you actually let those emotions flow. And lastly, gain feedback, get a different perspective, go to a friend that you trust, and ask them the question, how do you think I do managing my emotions? What are the emotions that I most often show, and how does it affect others? Some may say, you come across as nervous, and you're like, I don't think I'm nervous. I don't think of myself as a fearful person. And but the fact is, sometimes it's great to have another opinion and maybe say, why do I come across fearful? Am I fearful? It's just another exercise in the way to grow in your self-awareness. Well, it's one thing to know what your emotions are. It's another thing to know what to do with them. How do I manage those emotions? And that's what we will be looking at next time.